All right, hello and welcome in to our class previews. We are actually going to fit in our 5A, 6A, and 7A previews. And so we're glad to have you along here. Big school. We're going to call it the Big School previews here on the Arkansas Sports Network. And glad to have you along. Carson Ward and Duran Miller here as we are breaking down all classifications. If you haven't joined us already, we have broke down Class 2A, 3A, 4A, and well, because I messed up, we're going to do 5A, 6A, and 7A right here all together. And so we're going to get started here on the 5A. And I'm going to go ahead and release our rankings right now, which are we start with Parkview. We go with Robinson at 2, Farmington at 3, Morrilton at 4, Lakeside at 5, Camden Fairview at 6, Valley View at 7, Greenbrier at 8, Nettleton at 9, and Wynn at 10. And guys, let's talk a little bit about the 5A and what you guys are thinking and what sticks out to you.
I'll let you start us off, Carson.
Yeah, looking at the 5A, Parkview is the team that everybody's going to have to knock off if they want to reach that next level of winning state titles. I know last year that Farmington and Tommy Tice came in and made a great run in the playoffs, and but they didn't get close to knocking off Parkview in the state championship game. Parkview just kind of came in and steamrolled them, and they lose a lot. Parkview does. They lose a Marion Robinson, who's going to play at Oklahoma, and then Corey Smith, who is committed to Oklahoma, is transferred from Parkview to Bryant in the offseason, and lost Quentin Murphy, who now plays at Louisiana Monroe, who previously committed to the Razorbacks, and um, so the list goes on for Parkview. They just had so many great players. Monterio Elston is another guy. Cam Settle's another guy. I mean, they just kind of they lost a lot from last season. That was a
Cam
great
settles
class
with the
for them.
Razorbacks.
Yeah, that was a great class, senior class for them last year. And then losing Ja'Cory Smith, who was a junior last year and is a senior now at Bryant, was big as well. And Coach Brad Bolding leaving was probably the biggest loss. He had built a great program there. However, they replaced him really well with Bobby Bolding. He's going to have a good run at Parkview. And they're not going to if they take a step back, it won't be a huge step back, in my opinion. I think that Coach Bobby Boulding is going to have them rolling the same way his brother did. Looking at Robinson, Coach Todd, one of the legends of Arkansas high school football, had decided to step away from being the head coach at Robinson in the offseason, and Tyler Updergrove, their defensive coordinator, decided to step in. Coach Escola won 2 state championships at Robinson and really made them a contender. And then of course, Coach Tommy Tice at Farmington, they're going to bring back a really talented quarterback named Aiden Lester, who put up
Hmm.
great numbers last year. And they've just got a great established program now that Coach Tice has been. People were kind of skeptical about what he could do going into that last year. They said, he's might not adjust to what Arkansas high school football is now, and he really adjusted really well to what it is. It turns out that experience is one of the best attributes that you can have, and he's definitely got it. One of the all-time winningest coaches in the history of Arkansas high school football. So, and then Morrilton with Maddox Berry, he's going to have another really good year. Threw for over 4,200 yards last year, 57 touchdowns. He could do better than that this year if because he has a lot of his weapons coming back. And Coach Cody McNabb has worked with elite quarterbacks like Jacoby Criswell before, and he knows what it takes to have a quarterback go play at the next level. And I think Maddox Berry committing to UCA shows that Coach McNabb is a really good coach when it comes to developing quarterbacks. Looking at Hot Springs Lakeside, Coach Rockwell, he had Grady Oman last year, who is a great running back. He was their workhorse running back. He's a senior. Now he's gone, so they're going to lean a little bit more on the passing game. And Wally Walcott, who we have to talk to at our Hot Springs Media Day, I know, and he was really a talented player for them. He's going to come in, and they're going to lean on him a little bit more this year than they did last year, depending on who they decide to go with at running back. And then Camden Fairview, Coach Nick Vaughn, they're always a physical group, very, very disciplined, very talented. Um, you know, he he came in from that Scott Reed coaching tree, like Duran was talking about, and Buck James built a good foundation when he was at Camden Fairview for them to work with, and
Hmm.
so they've just been contenders for a number of years now, and they don't hardly ever take a step back. Valley View with Coach Sean Cockrell, they're always really good. They're always going to have great football players. They're sort of one of the premier teams in Northeast Arkansas, really, that really come out and show what they're made of every year. Last year, they kind of came onto the scene when they beat Harding Academy and really showed Harding Academy what 5A football was like, and um, kind of put their name on the map in a big way with that dominant win. Greenbrier's a team that I'm really excited about. Enoch Hassan's a running back who rushed for, I think, over 2,000 yards last year. I mean, I have to double check that statistic, but I think that he really, um, really put up great numbers last year. Definitely over 1,500, 1,400, 1,500 yards last year. But he's just a really talented running back. He could definitely go for 2,000 this year because they're going to lean on him a lot to win ball games. Nettleton's a team that's going to have really good ball players. They always have good athletes there. Xavier Harrell is a really good running back for Nettleton coming into this season, and they're going to lean on him. A lot of good running backs in this class for sure. Um, and then rounding out the list at number 10, um, you've got Win, Coach Clay Toddy. Um, they're gonna they're still haven't had to recover from all that tornado stuff that was left there um, a couple years ago, and Coach Toddy kind of came in at the tail end of recovering from all that stuff, and now he's been able to build a program and work with the kids and really establish himself in that community and things like that. And I think that another Northeast Arkansas team that's really going to have a good year this year, and I think that he's finally got the pieces there that he wants and established the culture that he wants there. And so I think the Yellow Jackets will have a good year this year as well.
All right. It's a pretty big breakdown of our top 10 there. You want to go ahead and just get straight into the classifications or
The
the
conferences,
conferences?
sure.
Let's go ahead and do that. Which one you want to start with?
Start with the West.
All right. So over for the 5A West, it's I think Farmington is probably the pick there at the top. You talked about Coach Tice a little bit, Carson, and what he's done last year. Um, you know, Coach Tommy Tice had retired and was pretty happy. I was able to interview him last year. He's pretty happy. He had a good situation. He was kind of working with the radio here and there, doing some things, staying around the game, staying involved. Um, he's got I think it's his daughter or granddaughter. They got a teaching job close by there to Farmington, and it was just a perfect kind of setup. And he had been around the program a little bit. He knew what they had, and he knew that they had a lot of good things happening there. The culture was right. It's a great situation for him to set up into. So, um, I some people were surprised a little bit that did the game surpass him a little bit. He comes from a hard nosed run it first kind of background when he's at Harrison for all those years and Huntsville a little bit. But he definitely stepped in, was able to mold them. When you go talk to Tommy Tice, I mean, he's just I don't know if you remember in interviews or if you've ever gotten to talk to him, anybody watching, but I told him this, he reminds me of like Frank Burrows. It's just he's got that southern charm and southern just respect and just a great interview and just a guy that you could tell he's a motor of men. And I think he did a great job there, and I definitely got them still at the top of the West for sure. After them, I do like what Maddoxberry and Morrilton brings to the table. They've got a lot of weapons. That's a dynamic offense. Greenbrier is another one right there with them. I do think Alma's going to be improved this year, so you've got to put Alma close to the mix there at the number 2 spot. But I'll probably go. I think, and in Bologna is another one that you can't rule out. But I'm gonna go Bologna. I'm sorry, Farmington number 1. Then I'm gonna go Greenbrier at 2, Morrilton 3, and Alma at 4. That's my top 4 for the 5A
Okay.
West.
Yeah, I like um, Coach Tommy Tice and Farmington as well. It's hard to pick against a team that made a run to the state championship last year to not win the conference. So I'm going to go with Farmington at my top spot. I think that Aiden Lester's going to have another really good year, put up great numbers. I'm going to go with Morrilton at 2. I think Maddox Berry is going to continue to do what he does best and just distribute the football to his receivers. I like Greenbrier at 3. I think Enoch Hassan will have a great year, and I think that Coach Tribble over there Greenbrier will do a good job with that group again. And then at the 4 spot, I like Bologna with Coach Clint Ashcraft. He's a program builder. Every year they're going to take a
Yeah.
step forward. And so I think that I like Bologna at that 4 spot. And I think Harrison's just right there on the outside. Alma's right there on the outside. You've got,
Right.
Harrison's a tradition-rich school. They've, of course, had Tommy Tice and Brandon Brolsworth and Gabe Husky, just guys that people know in that town that really well as legends of the game of football in Harrison, Arkansas. So
David Ewing.
yeah, so uh,
Sorry, just a shout out to my brother-in-law.
oh
He was quarterback on back-to-back semifinal teams, but we're talking 80s. So
yeah,
under Tommy Tice, that was his coach then.
yeah.
And
So
Yeah,
but
Tommy was there for a while. He
yeah,
real interesting about him. He's only coached at 3 spots in
all
40
right.
years of
I
coaching.
know that's the cool
Yeah,
spot, the cool part
twice
of it.
twice at Huntsville, once at Harrison, where he spent 29 years, I believe, and then now at Farmington. My pick would be, I think the Morrilton Farmington winner will be your 1 seed. Um, I'll go with Farmington because it is going to be at Farmington this year. Morrilton comes in at the 2. I like Greenbrier at the 3, and then boy, that 4 spot.
Right, toss up.
Alma, Harrison, Valonia, I think are all right there as a possibility. P. Ridge and Clarksville got their hands full in that conference. I've said this a lot. The biggest jump in high school football, in my opinion, is the 4A to the 5A. Just seems like
Look at
you've
look at
only
Harding Academy, for example.
got maybe 5 teams in the 4A that can really play up into the 5A. Where I think that your top part of 3A can play up into the 4A and all that. So
Right,
anyway, so moving on there, we like Farmington, I think, across the board to win the conference, and then Morrilton and Greenbrier to fight it out in the middle, and then you got Valonia, you've got Alma, you've got some Harrison as possibilities there, which I don't think that, to be honest with you, that's really any different. They usually have a deeper conference. Dardanelle is a team that went up into the 5A a few years back, and they didn't have much success. Moved back
right,
down into 4A, and they're right there. And again, that's another kind of shout out to what I just said about how that it's
right.
a lot
Ozark,
easier.
another one.
Yeah, it's easier to play in the 4A for 4A schools, but that makes a lot of sense, right? Let's move on to the 5A East here. And the 5A East, right now, I think the team that you got to look at when you look at the 5A East is the Valley View Blazers.
Right,
I think, as Carson said, probably a premier team in the Northeast Arkansas area, regardless of class. Probably the flagship program up there right now in Northeast Arkansas. So, anyway, guys, give us some thoughts on um, the North or the 5A East.
okay. Well, we'll start out with Valley View and definitely the premier team right now. They rattled off 12 straight wins last year on their way to a 12-1 record, um, but they lost a lot of players. They got about 3 or 4 back on each sides of the ball. Um, it's going to be interesting to see who they replace with their starting quarterback. They lose Drew Gartman at quarterback. Now they do have a really good running back, a guy named Carter Wallace. He's a big back. He's a kind of an every down guy, a 200-pounder, good speed. Played defense a lot last year, but then he started playing on the offensive side and was able to get about almost 500 yards rushing. I think they're going to lean more on the running game a little bit this year until they kind of get their feet under them at whoever's going to replace at quarterback. So they lost a lot. I don't know if they'll go 12-1 again. I think they may drop a little bit, but I still like them as the top team in the East. After them, I do like Win. I like what they're doing down there. Um, and you mentioned it earlier a little bit at the top about it's just a few years removed now from the terrific storm that happened, and they had to basically start over, build their school again. Communities
They're
really
not
come
totally
together.
built back yet.
Right? No, not totally. You know, we didn't talk about it yesterday in 4A or 3A, but Jessieville, they had a little bit of damage this year in the offseason. It wasn't nothing, I don't believe, on the wind level, which was just total tragic. Um, just, really bad storm damage. Basically, like I said, they kind of had to start over. They just ruined everything over there in their infrastructure. So, but I definitely like what they're doing. They're definitely on the way back up. Nettleton's a team that's always got some talent that can make some moves. I feel like Greene County Tech is usually a team that you hear they've had a little bit of tough times here as of recent. Um, I'm trying to think of who else we got in the 5A East.
Harding Academy, you got to mention
Yeah,
them for
Harding
sure.
Academy is definitely one. Um,
Bly or
they went first year last year.
yeah,
They go 7-4, moving up from when I think they've gone to 4 or 5 straight state championships in 4A. Um, Christian Bubba's is a about a 5'9", 180 pounder at running back. Got good speed that they're going to lean on a lot this year. He's a senior for them. Joseph Miles is a big time weapon out at wide receiver. He's just a junior. He's 6'3", big target, about 200 pounds. I think he had over 700 yards last year, 10 or 11 touchdowns. Really good player for them. So they got some guys, but it's going to be life without Owen Miller. Owen Miller's been there forever. Um, won many awards. Won our MVP of the year at the Arkansas Sports Network 2 years ago. I mean, just a unreal leader. But they definitely stepped up and had a tough row. They lost to Camden, who was one of the better teams in the state. Camden arguably has played Parkview better than anybody, in 5A over the last couple years, and that's who ended their season. So um, it's going to be fun to see if they can get back to 7-4 again. I do think they're number 2 in this conference, though. Go ahead, Carson. That's about what I got for the 5A East. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, the East.
Yeah, I like Valley View as well. They're kind of hard to pick against whenever they're everybody's favorite. I mean, they've got an established culture there. Coach Cockrell's been there for a number of years now and been able to get what he wants installed there. Um, I like Harding Academy a lot. I think they made a good hire in the offseason to replace Coach Evans by hiring the defensive coordinator from Shiloh Christian, um, who is, really, really learned how to win ball games. And he's just really, uh, I mean, when you come from a place like Shiloh Christian, Ashley Henley is his name. It
hmm
just came to me. When you come from a place like Shiloh Christian, um, it's it's the standard there is state championship, and now you're going to a place where the standard is state championship. It's
right.
not going to be a whole lot different for him now being the head coach at Harding Academy. So you've just got to, got to keep that standard. You got to do the things you did at Shiloh Christian that kept that standard up. And I think that, I think it'll be between Harding Academy and Wynn for that number 2 spot in the conference. I think Valley View takes the top, but I'm going to pick Wynn over Harding Academy to take that number 2 spot in the conference. I like Nettleton at the 4 spot. I think that they could easily, though, sneak their way into that 2 or 3 spot for sure. And so those are my 4 playoff teams. Brooklyn had a better year last year than they've had in the past, so I think that they might be a program who's getting a little bit more established in football after being a basketball only school for a long time. And, just this conference has a lot going. Paragould, I think, had a better year last year than they had had in years past. Batesville's a team that um, you know, needs to get back on track a little bit, but I think that they might be able to get there. And so it's just a lot going on in the 5A East right now.
All right, I like Valley View. I like Wynn to be the 2 spot, Harding Academy in the 3 spot, and in the 4 spot. Oh man, um, Nettleton's probably your 4. So, and we're looking. We were talking about the depth of the 5A. You're talking about Harding Academy not being in the top 10 right now. So that's something you probably didn't expect there when you're just breaking things down. Harding Academy not a top 10 team. Um, let's go on to the 5A Central. 5A Central has been a very tough conference, especially at the top. A lot of people are pointing at Robinson as the team right now that could maybe dethrone Parkview this year. Robinson has been, really, really good for several years now, and that we've touched on them a little bit. Who do you think can challenge Robinson in this conference?
Challenge Robinson.
Yes.
Parkview definitely. Um,
Well, this is
yeah,
Parkview's the South.
that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, my fault there. When you were talking about them challenging, you're
Yep.
talking about overall for state. So I apologize. Yeah. So in the conference, Maumelle is definitely One of the teams there that can make some noise. Cersei is a team that did better last year. I mean, they Zach Clark does a great job. There's, they went 6-5, but they've got several starters back, so I think they're going to be improved a little bit this year. Um, who else we got? We got Whitehall. Whitehall, um, they're kind of struggling a little bit. I don't know if they can compete for it, but Pine Bluff is another team that was down a little bit last year. Um, Lost some guys, but they've seemed to. Last year they lost a lot going into that year. This year I feel like they've got about half of their guys back. I think they're going to be a little bit improved over what they did last year. I think they were 6-5 if I remember correctly. I think they're going to be up a little bit more. So, but yeah, I mean, my number two to it would be Maumelle for sure. That I would have Jacob Henry, big time running back for them, 4.5 speed, to about 200 pounds, built low to the ground, runs with leverage. He's a guy that I definitely think puts them at as a really good opportunity to knock down Robinson. But I've definitely got Robinson going to win the conference this year. Personally, that's what I feel.
Watch out for Cersei this year.
Yeah.
Cersei is on their way up. Whitehall with Daryl Patton is a team that you can look out for. And then, you know, Reggie Swinton's got to be a draw at Jacksonville. You've got to think that kids are going to want to play for him right off the
Mhm.
bat.
Yeah. I think Jacksonville in this conference, if they have a good year, could sneak into a three probably. They're probably not better than Cersei just yet. But they have Mason Ball over at Jacksonville, who's already got offers from Ole Miss and Kansas State, who's a really good running back. And Coach Reggie Swinton at Forest City, he went 4-6 or 4-7 last year, and people don't appreciate how good that is for Forest City, who
Hmm.
won one game the year before, to improve that much and make
Right.
the playoffs. Um, I think that he just brings a totally new energy to Jacksonville. And just think about what Jacksonville has as far as facilities and resources and things like that that Forest City just doesn't have. I mean, I've been to Jacksonville's facilities. I was there last season to interview their coach, and it is just tremendous what they have access to over there. And so he's going to have exactly what he needs to build a strong program over at Jacksonville. I don't think they knock off Robinson this year. I don't think they knock off Cersei this year, but I'm not a. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to tell you the truth, I'm not afraid to put him at that three spot. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that they can knock off a Whitehall. I think they can knock off Watson Chapel, and I think Pine Bluff will be a battle, but I think
Mm-hmm.
they can do it. BB's got a new head coach this year, and Cody Sparks, who they kind of, I think, kind of went in there in the off season and is going to bring a new energy to that program as well. So, but to me, Jacksonville is at that three spot right now with who Reggie Swinton was able to bring in with him, uh, and who he's, just the way that he's working that program right now. He's pretty good at documenting it and putting it out there, and so you get to see
You're right.
exactly what they're doing over there, and it's pretty interesting how he does things over there. It's just different and different in a good way. Um, so I would go with my top four would be Robinson, Searcy, Jacksonville, and Pine Bluff in that order. And that's just my playoff teams this
Right.
year. I like Maumelle a lot. Actually, I'll put Maumelle at that four spot instead of Pine Bluff. Um, but Jacksonville's, I think Jacksonville's going to have a real good year this
Who do
year.
you have as your two?
I have Cersei at the two this
Mm-hmm.
year. So I like Cersei a lot this year. They got a great running back. Jacob Henry's going to do a lot of good things this year. However, Maumelle loses Anthony Kennedy, who they had last year. They lose their quarterback, Andrew Bjork,
Mm-hmm.
who they had last year to transfer, went over to Central. Jacob Henry's going to do good, but I like Curtis Goodrich, running back over at Cersei. I think Maumelle will sneak in at that four spot. And I think those are the four playoff teams this year.
Yeah, I want to talk about. You were asking me about who do I think could
Yeah.
catch Robinson. So I didn't really talk about Robinson much there, but they have a legit chance to win the state title this year. They're really good. 10-2 last year, bring back a lot. You know, they got to figure out who they're going to play at quarterback. Got a kid named Reese Simpson that 2 years ago was a 9-0 starter on the junior high team. So he's got a really good chance to do some things. And of course, we know about Kevin Williams. Uh, he's got some college offers, really good running back for them. But they're really deep at running back. They got another guy named Bryshawn Cunningham that's a slot back kind of wiggle worm, top jitterbug, so to speak. He's another guy. Robinson's very loaded, very deep. I don't see anybody challenge them in this conference, and I do have Maumelle right there. And then I mentioned Cersei and who else were we talking about? I'm trying to remember who else I had up there. Oh, Pine Bluff. I think Pine Bluff. There's so much talent at Pine Bluff always. Even though last year was an off year for them, I mean they lose to Cersei by 7. The weird loss they had last year was to BB. That one didn't make sense, but playing big time like Robinson 33-14. I mean that was relatively close. They whip up on Watson Chapel 33-6. They beat Whitehall 24-16. Only lost by 3 to Maumelle, and that was a really good Maumelle team last year. So I've got Pine Bluff right there um, in my 3 spot, and Cersei right there at 4.
One thing
Yeah.
before we split from this conference, Robinson added a transfer named Jackson Redmond, who was played at Pulaski Academy last year and led the state in sacks. He had 16 sacks last year in 7A, and they add him as a
Wow,
transfer this year. So
I didn't
their
know about that.
defense is just going to step up a whole nother level as well.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. Robinson is my top team in the conference. I would take beyond them. I think I'm going to go with Cersei, Maumelle at the 3, and then at the 4 spot, um, Jacksonville or Pine Bluff. I'll go with Pine Bluff as Duran was talking about. Some of their close losses this year, or last year. I think they can turn them around, so we'll go with them. Let's go into the 5A South. Parkview's been the team that has ruled the 5A South, but the 5A South is not without talent, especially. Really, the last couple years, the 5A South has been really good. Parkview has just been that much better than everybody else, and I think it kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. But you've got Lakeside is a team that a lot of people are high on this year. Also, Camden Fairview. I think those two teams are going to battle it out in the middle of the conference. And who knows, this year might be able to sneak up and get Parkview.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I like Parkview in this conference a lot. I mean, they do play Bryant and Benton in the non-conference. That might trip them up a little bit. Benton's going to be really good again this year, and Bryant is Bryant. I mean, they're just so physical every year, and it's hard to match what they do. I like Hot Springs getting Bishop Allen to transfer in from Malvern. I think he's going to be a big addition to that program. I like the hire that Arkansas High Texarkana made at head
Yeah,
coach Leroy Hood. I think is going to be a game changer for them. I do think that um, Hot Springs Lakeside will probably be the team that challenges Parkview the most in this conference. Um, I think that you know Camden Fairview will be up there, but that Camden Fairview Lakeside game will be very indicative of who the second best team in this conference is. Now, Parkview losing as much as they did between graduation and transfers, uh, they might be a little bit vulnerable to start the season. They might not have exactly where they want. That might not be exactly where they want to be. Now, Bobby Bolden's going to have them prepared. Don't get me wrong, but losing that much, you do have to prepare a different way. So it's going to be interesting to see. Hot Springs is the first team that they play in conference. We're going to see how they play against Bryant and Benton. That Hot Springs game might be a trap game if they're coming off, a loss to Bryant or Benton and they're a little bit down, and they step into Hot Springs and it's just Hot Springs is just tough every year. Coach Burnett, I think, does a fantastic job over there, and
Yeah,
he's always got good athletes, and now he's got a great quarterback as well. He's going to put up good numbers for him. Magnolia with Coach Adam Kirby, they're going to be a physical group. They've got 116 players out there at a 5A school, which is, they're going to be deep this year. They're going to have a lot of talent to draw from this year. And I think that him being in year 2 at Magnolia, they're going to take a step forward for sure. But it's a tough conference. There's not a lot of weaknesses in this conference. So you just got to watch out in this conference for Lakeside, Camden Fairview, Parkview, and then I would say that my top 4 in this conference would be Parkview at the top, and then I would go with Lakeside at 2, Camden Fairview at 3, and then I'm going to go with Hot Springs at 4 with Magnolia right there on the outside looking in. I think that both of those teams could definitely get a crack at that 4 spot in the playoffs.
yeah, really good picks there. I go with I'm going to stay with Parkview still. I still think they have a lot of talent there. Lakeside definitely. that's hard for me because I'm really high on Camden Fairview. I can't wait to get down there and watch them. Week 2, we're going to be. Is that week 1 or week 2? Week 2, ain't it?
Well, it's week 1. We're at
We-
week
That's what I
0.
thought.
Yeah, but
Okay, so
it's
it's
our second
technically week 1,
broadcast.
and yeah, it's going to be fun to see them against El Dorado. I'm really high on Coach Vaughn and what he's done with that program and his coaching tree, and so it's hard for me to take Lakeside, but I do. I know they've got a lot of guys that have come back, and they picked up some people, and Wally Walcott's definitely one of their guys that can make some noise. So I'll go Lakeside. Now I'm gonna go Camden 3, but I feel like that could be flip flopped. After that, Hot Springs at my 4, and then uh, I say Hot Springs. Magnolia's right there with them too. That's another hard pick.
Hmm.
So
One thing that I think needs to be pointed out is two really big players. And I mean, when I say big players, I mean just huge human beings. Tucker
Cedric,
Young at Lakeside and LeBron Montecure at Hot
Oh,
Springs.
yeah,
Just they're massive
massive.
human beings,
Yeah,
and they're also just stud football players. I mean,
right.
Tucker Young's committed to the Razorbacks, and I think LeBron Montecure is going to have a good collegiate football career as well if he decides to go that route.
Big time 3 technique there at Hot Springs. He is huge. About six. He said 6'6". He looked 6'8". Yeah, when
Yeah,
we
we need to
were
get Allen standing next to him to
right.
see for sure.
Exactly. My picks, I'm going to go with the top 4 that you have. And again, Magnolia kind of in that mix as well. But Parkview at the top, I think Parkview's maybe as vulnerable as they've been over the last 3 years. And then I'm sorry, Lakeside and Fairview are going to battle it out for the 2 spot. I'll go with Lakeside over Fairview right now. And then for the 4 spot, I'll go with Hot Springs.
yeah, I can't. You can't. I I want to pick Magnolia in the 4, but I got to go with Hot Springs. Just the addition of Cedric Allen is just too much for them not to get that
Oh,
4
yeah.
spot, if not more.
So let's go with our championship picks for 5A. I feel like we're kind of run of the mill when it comes to this because when you look at it, Parkview, um, what do you say?
Have we
You know
done
what?
every? Have we done
I'm
every
gonna go
conference?
Robinson. I'm going Robinson.
Okay.
And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe when I get more information about it, I'll understand a little bit more about
Okay.
what Parkview has. But I think Robinson might be the team to be able to jump up and knock
Well,
off Parkview this year.
that's actually how I feel as well. I'm going Robinson, number 1 overall. Parkview be my number 2. After that, it gets really tough, really tough. Um, I, I like Lakeside a lot. I like Camden Fairview a lot. I think Valley View still has some things that they can get accomplished there, but obviously Farmington and Morrilton, you can't forget about them as well. So I'm gonna go Robinson, Parkview, Lakeside, Camden, Fairview. Be like my top 4. How far do we want to go here?
4 is fine.
Okay.
4 is fine there.
Yeah, I like Parkview to win the whole thing. I mean, it's hard to pick against them. I do think that Robinson adding Jackson Redmond on the defensive side of the ball, who had 16 sacks last year and led the
In
state
7A,
in 7A football, coming down to 5A now. And they also have Kevin Williams, who's just a stud. Dad played high level
hmm
football as well, and so
Pro Bowler.
yeah, so he just it's genetics. He's got the genes for it to be a high level football player, um, and he's going to do very well this year, I think.
He's a leader type as well.
Hmm.
He used to play at CAC. He was on the state championship starting point guard. Jacob Henry was as well. So that team did move around a lot when their coaching change happened and Plumlee came in. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely a leader. He's been a leader since he was like a sophomore, and his dad obviously plays a part in him being that type of young man.
Yeah, yeah. So I would definitely pick Parkview at the top. I think Robinson will be the team that's going to challenge them the most for sure. And that's not going to be, I don't think that'll be disputed by many. However, I think that Farmington and Tommy Tice bring back a lot of production from
Mhm.
last season that's going to really help them out. I like Morrilton with Maddox Berry as well. I think that that's a pretty clear cut top 4. Lakeside definitely could sneak their way in there if they beat Camden Fairview. That's a big feather in their cap that they can carry into the rest of their season. I really like two teams I think will be surprise teams that'll be much better than last year are Jacksonville and Bologna because of their coaches, Reggie Swinton and Clint Ashcraft.
Yeah.
I think that those are two of the best coaches in the state. as far as getting the most out of their players. But as far as a state championship contender that I think can sneak up on some people, I like Greenbrier a lot. I think that Enoch Hassan is one of the most talented running backs in the state, and he's going to continue to put up big numbers every week this year. And so I like Greenbrier a lot. Of course, I lived close to him my whole life. I know what that program's about. I know I've seen them at their highest and some of their lowest as well. And I think that they're really excited about what they've got going on this year.
All right, let's move on to 6A here, and we're going to reveal our top six in the 6A and in the 7A. We were going to do top six in each. Greenwood is our number one team in the 6A. How can you pick against them until somebody knocks them off? Their last loss was in 2022. Shiloh Christian, number two. Benton, number three. Mountain Home, number four. Lake Hamilton, number five. And Marion, number six. And much like many classes, Carson, you could probably put at least the bottom three in a bowl, throw them in there, pull out one of the names, and maybe just be as right as we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the 6A West with Greenwood, you know, that's going to be Greenwood's conference to lose. However, Shiloh Christian is definitely going to come in there and is going to put up their best fight. They're going to put their best foot forward when it comes to playing Greenwood. That's just the way that that program is designed. They're not afraid of a fight. Um, but you know, I like what Greenwood does. Obviously, when you're winning ball games like Chris Young has at that program, since he got there, it's hard to bet against a team like Greenwood. But I think this is the most talented Shiloh Christian team that has been there in a long time, and they have come up just short of winning state championships year after year after
Yeah, the
year.
last 4 years they've actually been to the state championship game each of the last 5 years in some capacity. They won one in 2020, and then they've lost the rest of them. But look who they've run into.
Yeah, they
Right.
ran into what Greenwood and Parkview. I
Yes,
mean, that's just it's those are two of the premier programs in the state where the best prospects go in the state to play
yes.
football. So um, I think Greenwood's going to have everybody's number this year again. I think Shiloh is definitely going to could be a one score game, could be closer than a touchdown if you really think about it, but it's going to be hard to beat them. I like Mountain Home and what Coach Steve Airy is doing over there. I think that he's going to have a good year with Barrett Miller at running back, who's a 3 or 4 year starter there at this point. And I think that you know, and if we're just talking about the West, I mean that's kind of the top three going to the East. You look at Sheridan, and you look at Benton, and you look at um, you look at West Memphis added Gary Bohan to their coaching staff, which I think is going to be a big thing for them. You look at Sylvan Hills adding Mark Kelly as their head coach. That's going to be something that they're going to be really excited about, and I know that he's going to win a lot of ball games over there when it's all said and done. Um, and so of course, Marion and El Dorado are in that conference as well, and so it's going to be Catholics in there as well. It's going to be a really interesting year in Class 6A.
Yeah, I agree. You got to have Greenwood at number one. You got to have Shiloh probably at number two. Benton, the trying to overtake Shiloh to get in that two spot. Um, After that, I mean, we've got Mountain Home, Lake Hamilton, and Marion in our top six for the ASN rankings. Some other teams that maybe could bounce in there. I'm really high on Sheridan. I mean, I think when you've got, the weapons they do, like Isaiah Stevens at running back and their quarterback and Dax McClellan, they're going to make some noise offensively for sure. Um, you know, El Dorado's another team that I think is very improved and had a decent season last year. They're a team. If we want to break down the conferences, I I'm probably going to put them at number two or three. I know Catholic's right there. I think Catholic is definitely going to continue on their trend up that they've been on recently. So if we go the East, I'll go Benton one. Uh, Catholic and El Dorado, I've got kind of back and forth. I'll go Catholic two, El Dorado three, and then Sheridan, I think, is going to make a huge jump, and they're going to pass Marion. Even though I really like Marion a lot, they've got a lot of talent. They're another team you can throw in there to maybe make a run for the semifinals this year. Um, and then probably Sylvan Hills after that. Jonesboro is a team that's got a lot of talent that always is really good. I mean, last year I felt like they thought they had a really good chance, probably the best team in a long time. They had to play Conway right off the bat, a 7A team. That didn't go real well, but overall, they've still been pretty competitive. I think they're another team that could get in there and vie for that 5-6 spot. Um, Over in the West, like we talked about Greenwood, you got to pick them. Shiloh's right there on their heels. They played them very competitively last year. I like them a lot. Just don't think they've got what it takes to surpass Greenwood. Love Coach Gillerin, Tommy Gillerin over at Lake Hamilton. We talked about him earlier. You know, he's won state championships at Fountain Lake, and had a good thing going with Dover before he went to Fountain Lake. Well, can't even remember anymore if he went straight to Fountain Lake, but that's been a long time. Um, but I definitely like them. Mountain Home, you know, you mentioned their coach and what he's done at that program. Mountain Home's another team that them and Lake Hamilton, it's a real hard pick. You know, who's going to be three, who's going to be the four. After that, I like Van Buren. I think Van Buren got a big win over Marion last year, late in the year, after they had rattled off several losses in a row. I felt like that was a good sign, that their coach kind of had them in the right place. So I definitely think Van Buren, um, you know, they only got 3 wins last year. They beat Alma early in that huge rivalry game. This year, I believe it's at Van Buren this year. So I mean that's going to be a big one, that could build momentum for them early in the season if they can pull that off. You know, Alma's a team that I think is going to be improved as well down in the 5A. So Van Buren is a team that I think has a good chance to make that 5 spot.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about picking conferences here, I like uh, in in the East, I really like Benton to be the top team in that one.
Easily.
Um, I think that it's hard to not pick Coach Harris and Benton. We're going to see what they're made of when they play Bryant to open up the year in the Salt Bowl for the first time in a million years that it's not at War Memorial Stadium.
Right.
So that's going to be fun to watch. I like Marion a lot, but um, I do think that El Dorado could pop up there and get that 2 spot, but I'm going to give the 2 spot right now. You know what? I'm going to give that 2 spot to El Dorado right now. I'll give the 3 spot to Sheridan and give that 4 to Marion. I think Sylvan Hills will make a lot of noise
Mhm.
with Coach Mark Kelly coming in. I think that he's going to improve them a lot. He's just an offensive wizard and has done a lot as the offensive coordinator at Conway the past couple of years and won a state championship at Searcy as the head coach over there. And so he's gonna do some good things over at Sylvan Hills.
One thing I wanted to add that I forgot was Benton. Their quarterback Drew Davis is one of the better ones returning in the state. I will say that last year they were loaded at wide receiver and they lost a lot of those guys. I think there is an opportunity this year. I still think Benton is the team in that conference by far, but I do feel like there are some spots, some vulnerabilities that as they kind of get through more of their depth and find out who's going to be their leaders at receiver. Um, that maybe a team like Catholic or El Dorado or we've talked about Marion and Sheridan, that possibly they could you know find a way to get an upset there and get a chance to win a conference championship.
Well, let me point out Catholic has probably been the second best program in that
Yes.
conference
Oh,
over the
definitely.
last few years. So I think right now you got to throw them in the mix. Benton and Catholic are my top two. Beyond that is Marion. El Dorado is my 4 spot. My 5 spot is going to be, um, well, let's see here. My 5 spot is going
Sheridan, West Memphis,
share. See, and that how do you Sheridan's my 5 spot, and then my sixth
Jonesboro,
spot was probably Jonesboro.
and
That's
that's crazy, ain't it? Because Jonesboro, I feel like is pretty solid, and we're picking them at 6 in their own conference.
well, I mean,
That's
that's
how deep it
that's
is.
what happens. I mean, I feel like we talk about this quite a bit in several conferences, all the way up. And maybe it's just relative to who they play. Maybe it's tough relative to who they play, but I feel like you've got a lot of depth in these conferences throughout the state. State championship picks for each class. Obviously, in the 6A here, Greenwood. I mean, until you beat them, you've got to say that they're going to win it, right? I mean, how does Kane Archer lose a state championship game?
Right,
That's hard for me to see.
right. I agree. Greenwood, Shiloh, right after them. I think Benton's third. Um, and we've kind of talked about this already, but after three, Catholic, Mountain Home, Lake Hamilton, Marion, Sheridan, I think is going to be improved this year. Those are all teams that have a chance to maybe crack into that semifinal kind of range.
Yeah, I like Greenwood again. Hard to pick against them, especially when we have the dynamic duo of Kane Archer and Champ Davis coming back. this year, and that shutdown defense that probably won't miss a beat this year. When you shut down a Kevin Kelly offense, I
Right.
mean, that's just incredible. Um, and so it's it's going to be a lot of fun to watch what Kevin Kelly does this year. You can say that they are a dark horse team to make it deep in the playoffs, but when you're Kevin Kelly, you're always going to have that target on your back because of how many games you won at Pulaski Academy. So I don't know if they're necessarily considered a dark horse team because everybody's going to get their best shot. So,
Right.
but I would definitely pick Greenwood and Shiloh as the top two. Benton could sneak in there if Drew Davis has another standout year like he did last year. Um, but I think that it'll be Greenwood, Shiloh, and then my dark horse team would be El Dorado just because of the history that they have
Right.
there and how physical they are, and they got a really good running back in Jeremy Samuel as well.
Yeah, and El Dorado, we talked about this off camera, but El Dorado scored 84 points last year against Sheridan. They gave up 49, but against Greenwood, after scoring 84 against Sheridan, 2 weeks later against Greenwood, they had a goose egg. That's
It's
how
different,
good
man.
Greenwood
It's
is.
different.
But El Dorado's another one that I didn't mention that could
Yeah.
get in that
So
semifinal
so you
matchup.
were saying that it was El Dorado that got shut down by
Greenwood,
Greenwood. So I
yeah,
was under the
48
impression that it
nothing.
was Sheridan that got shut out by Greenwood.
No,
So I need to
no,
correct myself that Kevin Kelly did not get shut out by Greenwood, but
no.
um,
Sorry.
yeah, but I mean, one of the things I think is interesting too is going to be seeing how Kevin Kelly uses Isaiah Stevens
Hmm.
and Bradley Sturdivant, who's going to be on that offensive
Yeah,
line,
that's going to be a
and
big help.
Dax McMillan put up over 3,000 yards passing last year. He's going to probably put up 4,000 this year in
Right.
that second year of that offense. It's kind of like, you know, I think
Danny
that
Green,
it's like,
Trino,
yeah,
second year.
or Bruce Arians in the NFL. People always
Hmm.
talked about how complicated his offense was, and even Tom Brady in his first year struggled to get
Z Right,
a
22,
grasp
Z
on it.
Top,
Yeah, it's just,
whatever.
yeah, you just got to figure out how all this stuff works
John
together.
Gruden.
And yeah, anyway,
Spider 2 Y banana.
Yeah,
All right, let's move on.
Z Topper.
Let's move on to the 7A. Our top six in the 7A: Bryant, Mintonville, Conway, Fayetteville, Pulaski Academy, and Rogers. That's our top six. Again, we go with six because when you're ranking these teams, when you go past eight, that number one, that's half the class. And number two, you kind of recycle the bottom. Sometimes you can't even move the guys out of the bottom because they've already beaten the teams that are below them. And I feel like six works out better for these bigger classes. But with that being said, well, I think right now the consensus for us is until somebody kind of like Greenwood, if until somebody beats Bryant, you've got to go with them.
yeah, and believe it or not, we've talked about this ad nauseum already today. So Bryant's definitely going to be the hunted in Class 7A, and Conway is just going to have to. They replace Grayson Wilson with Wesley Tapp coming into this season. Trey Harris is going to come back and have a good year for them this year. I think he'll break 1,000 yards rushing. Bryant bringing in Ja'Cory Smith and T.J. Hodges, two really big players. Ja'Cory Smith is committed to Oklahoma. T.J. Hodges is set to announce his commitment sometime soon between Arkansas and Missouri. Transferred over from Mark Tree. And of course, that culture was established at Bryant by Buck James a long time ago with 5 or 6 out of 7 of the last state championships. Coach Quad Sanders stepped in. They didn't miss a beat with their physicality and emphasizing the line of scrimmage. And so that's just Bryant's brand of football. You talk about the rest of the 7A Central. You look at Little Rock Southwest as a team that people thought was on the come up for a while, and then they'd win a couple games, and then they'd run into Bryant, or they'd run into Conway, or they would run into any number of other really good teams in that conference. Pulaski Academy, even, who we haven't really hit on a whole lot yet, who's going to be moving Williams Svoboda to quarterback from receiver last year, where he put up really big numbers. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that works at quarterback. Little Rock Christian has an all-state quarterback named Kemp Keller, who just committed to Henderson State, who's going to, I think, have a really good year. And I think that they're going to step in and they could be in that four spot. I like Cabot in that four spot a little bit more than them with Coach Scott Reed building what he does. And Scott Reed is a guy at Cabot who there's a lot of coaches in every level of sports who they take a job as a bridge job. They'll say, I'm going to take this job to get this job and to prove that I can win at this level. Scott Reed has his dream job at Cabot right now. I think that he's really good at leading the guys there. The coach stepped in at a really successful program for Coach Mike Malham, and it's really it's really, I think, going to come all to, a lot of it's going to come together this year for Coach Scott Reed. Had a really successful tenure at El Dorado and was able to
Yep.
come in at Cabot and work that program really well. And then talking about Little Rock Central, just to round out the 7A Central, you got Anthony Kennedy transferring in. You got Andrew Bjork transferring in. I think they could take a step up. You got Brad Bolding at North Little Rock, who I think will take a step up this year as well. But there's only so much to go around in the 7A
Yep.
Central, so you gotta pick and choose who you think is gonna take a step forward this year.
I agree. Um, Bryant, definitely you gotta pick them at the top. Conway really has a has an opportunity. I think Buck James, I think it's going to get better every year. I do think they're going to have some tough shoes to fill. Grayson Wilson leaving, departing. They figure out their quarterback situation. Um, which I know they've got Wesley Tapp who's going to be the starter there. Um, if they can run the offense the way they think they will, I really think they can make some noise and possibly surpass a Bryant. But right now, Bryant's got to be your number one pick. PA, you talked about William Sabota, quarterback. I think he's got a sister who plays volleyball on the PA team, if I remember right. We were up at state, but anyways, just really talented. That's going to help PA a lot. They do some amazing things there, numbers wise, and that system that Coach Kelly put in place years ago is just it keeps churning it out. They're a team that's dangerous. They can make some noise. Um, Cabot, I do agree. I love Scott Reed. I think he did a phenomenal job down in El Dorado. He is at his dream job now. He's changing it a little bit. Mallon was very, running the ball, triple option, top offense. It's a little different now. Um, who else do we have in our top six? We got Fayetteville. Fayetteville's a team that I think um, could could catch Bentonville. Bentonville I didn't mention, so I was kind of going down the the central there at first. So I apologize, but Bryant at number one, Bentonville I've got at number two, Conway right there behind them at three. Bentonville played Bryant last year. Bryant really didn't have a close game. I mean, their closest games was Benton to start the year off in the Salt Bowl, and then Parkview. I think they won that one 31-20, 30-21, 31-20, something like that. It was really I mean, those are their two relatively close games. Then it was just blowout, blowout, blowout all the way. And Bentonville really had an opportunity there, 28-23. Um, so Bentonville, you can't count them out. They can maybe knock Bryant off the block, off the block there, but you still got to go with Bryant. Conway, we've already talked about a little bit. I've talked about that they're right there with them. I think that's going to be really fun to see how that all shakes out. Fayetteville has some really good guys coming back. Coach Casey Dick does a great job. Hank Hendricks at quarterback. That's really going to help them with an opportunity to surpass Bentonville and win that conference and possibly be the one that's playing Bryant. It's depending on how the bracket shakes out. I love Rogers, Coach Harbison, what he's been doing. I really think Rogers has a chance to get that 3 seed in the conference for sure. Bentonville West, they definitely are going to be better. And then Springdale, I think, is going to be better as well. So it's going to be fun to see how it all plays out. But I still think you got to go with Bryant overall, and then after that, I think you could kind of move guys around with Bentonville, Conway, and Fayetteville, with Rogers on the outside looking in.
Um, I I mean, you guys are right on point here with all of this. Here, I'm going to go in the Central. I'm going to go with Bryant, obviously at the top. Conway, right there with them. Is this the year that Conway can get over the hump and be able to knock Bryant out of that top spot? I think you've got to go with Pulaski Academy
Mm,
and Cabot battling it out for that 4 or 5 spot in the Central. I think that it is
the 3-4 spot, I think.
yeah, I'm sorry, 3, 4 spot. That's correct. And then the 5, 6 spot, I think you've got Central as a possibility. Obviously, Little Rock Christian
Christian.
seems to be
Yep.
better, the best candidate for that. And then you've got Southwest trying to on the come up right now. They're trying their best. North Little Rock also with Coach Brad Bolding there. Can they
Hmm.
make the next step? And maybe get into that 6 spot and get in the playoffs. I think that'd be a huge win for him if he
Yeah.
could do that this year. And in the West, um, you know, I think that Bentonville is your top team. Fayetteville is right there with them. I think that comes down to that October 17th game. well, I don't know where it's at. I'll check that right now. It's actually in Fayetteville. Um, Rogers is our team that we feel like kind of falls in the middle there. Then you've got, I think Springdale is on the improvement. West is on the improvement as well. I think that those two are really there. Harbor's another team that
Yeah,
I think can be improved this year. I
Northside
think
as
they
well.
will be improved this year. Northside as well. Again, I think Northside is a sleeping giant.
Right.
So I would probably go in the 4, 5, 6 spot. I'd probably go Springdale West, and then I'm going to go with Northside to round it out and be in that 6 spot for the playoffs. And my state championship pick right now, until Bryant's knocked off, I guess you got to go with them at this point.
Yep, I
So,
agree.
all right, guys. I think we've got it. Any final thoughts here as we kind of round this thing out, send you off to Oklahoma, and just, as football season's beginning here in the state of Arkansas?
Well, I'm really excited about this season. I think that, just finishing off 7A, I think that the Buck James Bowl is always exciting and the Salt Bowl is always exciting. And, I think that Sheridan will be fun to watch this year with Coach Kelly getting his second year in that program. I think that 2A is outside of Mount Ida and EPC. It's wide open this year. I think that another interesting team to watch will be Cabot with Coach Scott Reed. I think that they're going to have a better year than they've had in the past. I think they could really have a breakout year this year if things go right and they do everything that they're supposed to be doing. I think if they do everything Coach Reed asks of them, that they can step up and make the quarterfinals or the semifinals. I mean, they really have that kind of roster this year. So, and then Parkview, it's going to be interesting to see what life without Brad Bolding is like.
Right.
Of course, Bobby Bolding is no slouch. He's a very talented coach. And then seeing year one under Brad Bolding at North Little Rock will be fun. Seeing Nashville with Coach Brad Cheshire will be fun, and Jay Turley taking over for him over at Murfreesboro will be a lot of fun to watch as well. Um, and then um, I know that uh, maybe Duran wanted to talk about this, but I want to see what Mark King does at Dover, just getting that culture change in that first year. I think that he's going to do a lot of good things. I think that this year we've had some crazier coaching changes
Right.
than we've ever had before.
Josh
And
Watson from
yeah,
Salem
Josh
to
Watson at
Ozark
Ozark,
was a big one.
and people are paying attention to it now. And I think that last year Kevin Kelly going to Sheridan was like, whoa, that's a big deal, and it was a big deal. And then this year Brad Bolding going to North Little Rock was a big deal, and Mark King going to Dover was a big deal, and Bobby Bolden taking over at Parkview was a big deal, and the list goes on. So
Swinton.
yeah, Swinton he's another interesting program. He's got Jacksonville doing a lot of good things right now. I know that he's completely overhauling what they were doing at Jacksonville. That's just what he does. He does things differently in a good way, and he's gonna show everybody. He's gonna show the world his players, and that's what he's all about.
Right.
And so it's gonna be an interesting year in Arkansas high school football this year for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see if Robinson can overtake Parkview in 5A, if anybody else can get in there. Can Shiloh finally break through against Greenwood? Um, you talk 7A, it's can Bryant hold on, keep doing what they've been doing. Bentonville was very close last year. And then we've talked about that a lot, but Conway and who am I missing there? Right there on the outside looking in. Um, Fayetteville's the other big one, and then I think right after that, I mean, there's still some really good teams that have a possibility. Pulaski Academy. Um, who else we got? Rogers. Rogers another one that they're just getting better every year under Coach Harbison. They really got a chance to get into that 2 or 1 spot even.
Yeah.
Could this be the year that they can do that? They got a lot of talent. Um, they're definitely one to talk about. Cabot, like you mentioned, they're going to be up on the upswing. Um, the big coaching, some of the big storylines, you've hit on a bunch of them. Brad Boating, obviously, going over to North Little Rock. They were winless last year at North Little Rock to see what he can do in year one. They win 2 or 3 games. I mean, that's a huge start right off the bat because of where it was. He's going to have the support. He's going to get some guys to come over there. He's going to build up the guys they've already got, make them winners. That's just what he does. It's going to be fun to see how Bobby holds on at Parkview. Can they win 4 in a row? I already mentioned that with Robinson. I do think Robinson has a great chance to overcome them this year. Down in 4A, let me think here. We got trying to think top of my head.
Arkadelphia,
Yes,
do they
yes,
repeat?
yeah, yeah. Arkadelphia, they've got so many weapons. They definitely look. I mean, we talked about them when we broke down 4A. I mean, they've got defensive ends with over 200 pounds of 4.6 speed and 4.4 guys on offense and defense. I mean, they're going to be very formidable. Um, but yeah, it's just going to be a fun year. Conway Christian, obviously the 2A returning champs last year. They lost their quarterback, lost some big time running backs, lost some receivers. So that's kind of wide open to see who's going to do that, how that's going to work out. Junction City losing their quarterback, losing their running back that transferred to Florida, I believe. Is that correct? Um, that's going to hurt them a little bit. Let's see how that plays out. I think Carlisle getting back to their roots, getting their offensive line back right, and leaning heavily on Jaden Elliott's going to be big. See if they can, return to back to the title game and see if they can break through this year. Desart's a team that's got a lot going for them that can move up as well, get back to the championship. They've done a lot over the years. But yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm really excited about our first games of week 1 or week 0. Technically, we're going to be at Monticello versus Fordyce. Going to be in Monticello. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the Billies and the Redbugs, Cadillac Elson at Fordyce. I mean, I can't wait to see that. Micah Gamble. I mean, there's just so much talent. Stormont, Stroud. There's so many athletes on the field for both teams. That's going to be a fun one. We got Camden Fairview. Do you want to go ahead and talk about the first 4 games? Camden
Sure.
Fairview at Camden Fairview
Yeah.
versus El Dorado. Big
Mm-hmm.
rivalry there. Coach Nick Vaughn coming from El Dorado when Scott Reed was there playing under his tree. Um, that's always like a 1-score game every year. That's going to be great on week 1. Then we go week 2. Who we got after that?
Nashville at Dardanelle.
Yeah, big one.
That's
Coach
one.
Cheshire.
Yeah, new coach Brad Cheshire there, and
That's
then
another coaching hire we
yeah,
didn't mention.
and then 4A, right now Dardanelle's really looked at as one of the top teams in 4A this year. And then week 4 or week 3 for us, week 4 for our fourth game will be Desark at Carlisle, which we've done that game before. And anyway, looking forward to a great season of high school football, high school sports across the state. Make sure that you tune in to the Arkansas Sports Network for all things high school sports here in the state of Arkansas. Not only do we cover football, but we cover basketball, and then if you throw us a
Volleyball.
bone, we'll do some throw some volleyball out there and some wrestling or whatever. Just let us know. But anyway, with that being said, we're going to wrap this up. This has been your big school preview, 5A, 6A, 7A, and we appreciate you joining us for all of these previews. And we'll see you very soon.